Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have Zuby with us.
What's up?
Thank you so much for joining. It was a bit tricky to find each other, but in the end we made it.
Yeah, it was a 10-minute walk and I looked like I'd been in a sauna for about an hour. But I made it. I'm here. I'm dry. Sweating has stopped, so happy to be here in Dubai. You know, I actually grew up in the Middle East. I grew up in Saudi Arabia, so extreme heat is not something that's new to me. I haven't experienced it long-term for quite a while, but I spent a lot of time in Texas. I spent a lot of time in Florida. So yeah, it's weather is weather. I honestly, a lot of people would rather be too cold than too hot. I'd rather be too hot than too cold.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I'm African. So I don't know.
I also agree because, there's a different vibe when you are in the extreme cold. I mean,
I don't like the cold. I don't like winter. I don't like the darkness. I'd rather be in the sun and the sun is too hot and I'm sweating a lot and I got to find some shade. I prefer that to, as long as air conditioning is accessible and you get some respite. Like if it were just that nonstop, then that might be a different situation, but it's the same for extreme cold. So, hey.
Amazing. And by the way, this is the part where I ask the guest to introduce himself or herself, but there's no need because for those 4 people that live under a rock and they don't know who you are.
Am I that famous? I don't know, man. I don't know. I've been at a strange level of fame for many years at this point. For those who don't know, my name is Zuby. I'm an independent rapper, author, host of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast, public speaker, known around the world from different people for a lot of different things.
I love the fact you have 2 books, and one is for kids to stay healthy and to exercise, which I think is good. It's based on any foundation,
Dude,
right?
it's the foundation. I mean, if you don't have, I think there's a lot of societal programming that goes on, but I think one of the biggest ones is just a level of materialism and consumerism where people prioritize their material possessions that they've purchased, whether this is their shirts, their car, their house, their sofa, their shoes, more than they prioritize their own body, which is crazy because you only get one body and it has to last you literally your entire life. As soon as there's a catastrophic failure in it, if it's not dealt with quickly, then you die, right? So there's a lot of random things that can happen in the world, from illness to accidents to all sorts of things that we don't control. So at a minimum, it totally makes sense to control those things that you can. And one of the first priorities there is taking care of your own body, taking care of your physical health. When you're in your teens, when people are in their 20s, oftentimes they overlook it. But by the time they get into their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, at some point, you're always going to have to pay a price. You can put in the work in the gym and exercise and lifting the weights and doing the cardio and eating right. You can do it. You can do it early and do it up front and maintain it. Or you can act like none of it matters for decades, and then a time is going to come where you pay a very hefty price for that. Yeah, I'm big on taking care of your body, so that's why I've written 2 books on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And isn't that crazy that everything is kind of delayed? For example, think about smoking. Nothing happens immediately. Yeah. It happens in time, like you said. So the body is your temple. Mm-hmm. Take care of it. Take notes because, Zuby knows.
It's also, and for anyone young person listening especially, I mean, it doesn't matter your age, but it's easier to maintain good health and maintain fitness than it is to acquire it. So if you can build good habits very early on in your teenage years, in your 20s, and you just make it a norm of your life, like taking a shower and brushing your teeth, which I hope everybody does, then it's easy to just maintain. If you wait until you're 40 or 50 and then you want to start getting in shape, you can still absolutely do it. Don't be discouraged. But it's going to be harder in part, not just because of your body, but also because you haven't built up the long-term keystone habits. Yeah. So, and I'd also say it translates into success and everything else as well. The same dedication it takes to, build an impressive physique or acquire a level of strength or to get your body weight down to a healthy level and maintain it there, you can take those same lessons in any other aspect of life to become successful.
I was about to say discipline, right? So discipline in business is number 1. Yep. So it's a super good point.
Setting goals, overcoming hurdles, fighting against your own mindset and other people's criticism. Man, so many things. Consistency, because discipline is one thing, but consistency is also part of it. Consistency, perseverance, being able to, pain tolerance, being able to embrace the suck, right? Anything new you do, it's always going to suck for a while. You were telling me before we started recording about learning English. Mm-hmm. I'm sure when you first learned English, it sucked.
Yeah, it was difficult.
It sucks. It's hard to learn a new language.
Yeah.
If you're an adult and you're trying to pick up a new language, it's extraordinarily difficult. Not impossible, but it's hard, and you're going to suck at it for a while, and you're going to feel foolish, and you'll feel dumb because you don't understand things, you don't know how to say things. But over the course of time, you find that it's worthwhile. And now you communicate very fluently, and you've got multiple languages under your belt, which a lot of people don't. So it's good.
Yeah, it's a good point. One of my best friend play chess. He's like up there, you know, super skilled, super good. And I battle him every time, and I lose every time. I'm like, dude, I'm learning, you know. So every time I lose, which is always, I'm learning something. When I finish the match, I'm like, okay, I've learned something. So losing is technically, if you learn something from it, it's not losing at all, right?
No, and that's how you learn anything. I mean, if you think of every single thing that you know, I mean, this sounds obvious, but every single thing that you know, there was a time that you didn't. From, you know, apart from the most obvious things like how to breathe and how to eat, we don't really, everything else we have to learn. You have to learn how to speak, you have to learn how to walk, every physical capability you have, every piece of knowledge that is in your brain, there was a time when you didn't know it. And so a lot of times people are afraid of being wrong, people are afraid of having conversations, people are afraid of listening to different perspectives and so on. But by doing that, that's actually how you become not just intelligent, but wise, right? That's how you develop a perception of the world and an understanding of human beings and the world and all these things in it. It's all infinitely complex. Yeah. You're never going to understand all of it. You're not even ever going to understand most of it. It's impossible for any one person to understand most things. Humanity as a whole does not understand most things. Yeah, it's all just a process. And I've always been very intellectually curious. Ever since I was a kid, I've always just been like wanting to learn more and learn more and learn more. And every person I interact with, city I go to, country I visit, experience I have, I'm constantly learning.
I love that. And it comes out in your podcast, Real Talk with Zuby, that I love so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
The one you've done with Alex, it's one of my favorite. Like, and he's also like, you know, super disciplined, super, you know, his story is amazing. And you guys are bouncing off each other so naturally. And I really enjoyed that one.
Thank you so much.
And he just went to see Elon Musk. And I cannot, you know, what? So how was it?
Yeah, I was with Elon actually about this time last week. Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was awesome. It was a little bit surreal. I've interviewed and met. I mean, I've met. At this point, it's crazy. I've actually, in the last few years, I've met almost every public figure that I want to meet, which is pretty crazy. Apart from, you know, there's a handful that I haven't met yet. But it was great. You know, he was super friendly. He was very happy to meet me as well. We had a great conversation, which people are going to be hearing. I don't know what time. I don't know when this podcast comes out, but it'll probably be coming out, you know, around the same time frame. And, you know, he's an inspirational dude. I mean, it's not even... Some people's brains might go to, oh, you know, this is the richest man in the world, which he is, you know, 230 billion net worth, something ridiculous like that. But it's not even, I mean, I think when I look at it, I think even when he looks at it, that's not even the thing that is so impressive about him. It's the way that happened. It's everything that's been created to make that kind of number possible. It's like, wait, I mean, I asked him this in the podcast. I mean, you're CEO of Twitter, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, Boring Company. I mean, being the CEO of one big company is a massive deal. Yeah. You're CEO of 5 companies, 3 big ones. I mean, SpaceX, Tesla, Twitter. Yeah, those massive. Are big companies. Yeah. And then he's got, 9, 10 kids on top of that. You're operating in it just, I mean, he's impressive. And this is someone who, you know, he didn't, you know, I know he had a hard childhood. He doesn't like to talk about it. You know, he had a painful childhood. And then at every step of everything he's done, from Tesla to space, you know, even before that with PayPal, people always thought what he was going to do wasn't going to work. Yep. Right? Yep. I don't bet against Elon. I mean, when he bought Twitter last year, people are like, oh, Twitter is going to, even people I know were like, oh, you know, Twitter is going to fail. Twitter's going to die. Everyone's going to, and I was like, no, how are you going to, there's some people you don't bet against. I agree. And he's one of them, right? Like there will be a way he will make it work. And now, not even 1 year later, Twitter is, you know, I know in terms of their profitability, I think they're still up compared to where they were since they cut their costs so much. Yep. You know, it's not fully profitable yet, but I already have thought Twitter is the best social media platform, but I think if they execute well, it will be head and shoulders above the best one. And I think having the ethos of freedom of speech in the true sense and anti-censorship and allowing people to, I mean, he's got crazy plans for Twitter. Like, I mean, long term, he doesn't even want it to be Twitter. He wants it to be X. Yeah. I'll let him explain more of it, but amazing. Yeah, there's huge potential. I got my first paycheck directly from Twitter this week, which is interesting.
For a subscription.
Yeah,
Amazing.
so I've been on Twitter for 14 years, and this is the first paycheck I've received from Twitter Incorporated. So I was like, okay, that's
amazing.
That's a start. After 14 years of giving you guys all these billions of impressions and fire tweets, I'm
something's coming back.
It was only a small amount, but hey,
Isn't that amazing? I mean, one of my favorite quotes says, "Luck is truly when preparation meets opportunity." People point fingers and say, "Oh, you're so lucky." Okay, but you have not seen what I've done, right?
Yeah.
So going back to what you said, which was fascinating, I see life in the same way. So in order to succeed, you have to be there, show up. That's one of the first few ingredients, I guess, you need to put into the cake, into the baking process. Show up, be resilient, be consistent, like we said earlier. Yeah. And same with Elon. Like I'm Team Elon, 100%. I love what he's doing with Twitter.
Everyone should experience like at least a day of having 1 million followers on Twitter just to understand what it's like. I mean, I think there's a lot of situations that it would
warriors, right?
It's not just that though. It's not just the negative. I mean, I get asked all the time, like, how do you deal with the negativity? How do you deal with hate? How do you deal with criticism? Honestly, no one ever asks me how do you deal with all the love? Because the love outnumbers the hate 100 to 1. No one ever asks like, oh, how do you deal with that much love, admiration, positivity? Like, because both of them can
overwhelm, right?
Yeah, both of them can be overwhelming, right? As human beings, we're more sensitive to negative. If you get 100 positive comments and one negative one, your brain focuses on the negative one because we're threat detectors naturally. But there's the whole thing with social media, especially, it is very unnatural. We are running a giant social experiment that is not even 20 years old at this point. True. The combination of smartphones and social media has only been mainstream and ubiquitous since, let's say, about 2010. You could say at most maybe 15 years that people have had this combination, and it's been all over the place. And it's deeply unnatural. It's really cool. It has some massive advantages and benefits, and I love my life and the things that I've been able to do and the people I've been able to meet via this platform. I mean, whether it's Joe Rogan or it's Tucker Carlson or it's Elon Musk or it's all these other people I've connected with and done shows with or podcasts with or spoken at events at or whatever it is, all the cities I've traveled to, all these people I'm meeting, this podcast right now, all of this is enabled via social media. I've done meetups where I've met thousands of my followers in real life. But also it's like, I say just on Twitter right now, it's on the screen, I've got like about 1.13 million followers. In the past, who had over 1 million followers who know who you are and that you can reach and communicate with all over the world? Nobody had that. Unless you were like a top level celebrity or a politician, even then you did not have instant communicative access to all these people in two directions. So it's totally new. There's Dunbar's number, like human beings are sort of wired to be able to have about 150 sort of proper close relationships. Yeah. And so when you're just connected to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of people, I think there's 4 billion social media users now. What does that do to the psyche? What's the best way to manage it? What's the best way to communicate? How do you maintain your energy and your attention and your mental well-being? And how do you not become arrogant and self-obsessed and solipsistic? And how do you also not let the negativity and the criticism get to you so badly that you're now depressed and anxious and you want to just you're scared to even look at your phone because it's all brand new, and I think people very much forget and don't appreciate just how new it is. Yeah. And I think with any new world-changing technology, comes a lot of potential upside, but obviously some real negative ramifications, which we're seeing, especially in young people and teenagers. You've got anxiety going up, depression rates, doubling, especially in teenage girls. Things like suicide, self-harm, so on. All of these things have actually gone up, very much coinciding with the rise of social media. It's not the only factor, but it's a significant one. So there's a lot of challenges there, and I just do my best to use the tools in line with my mission of uplifting and motivating people and inspiring and nudging people in a positive direction, than doing the opposite, which is destructive and divisive and just makes makes things worse. I do my best to, make things better.
Yeah, there is so much beauty in what you just said. I'll try to unpack it quickly. This is also why you have a course on how to manage your social media, right?
Yeah, I do. I barely ever promote it, honestly. It's something I made, and then I've pushed it a little, but I don't even think I've promoted it once this year. I've got a course about how to grow grow your Twitter and improve your following. I do consulting. Like I've worked with dozens of people to help them grow their accounts and help them with their Twitter strategy and so on. I don't advertise it that much, but that is something I do. And look, the truth is these tools are here, whether you like them or not. The technology is here. Most people, for all their protest, still are addicted to their smartphones and still use social media. All the people who trash social media on social media, I'm like, well, you're still on social media. You're here telling me all these awful things about Twitter, awful things about Facebook, awful things about YouTube, and you're doing it on the platform itself. So there's obviously there's a bit of a hypocrisy there. But I'm also just like, look, you've got these tools available. They do open up a lot of opportunity, which is new. Yeah. So if you're going to use it, my view is simply, look, you don't have to use social media, but if you are going to, why not use it as a force for good? Why not use it to expand your business or to share your creativity or make friends and acquaintances and connect with business partners, or at least inform and entertain yourself in a positive way? If all you're doing is doom scrolling and trolling and attacking people and fighting and getting yourself wrapped up in negativity and spreading negativity, then it's better for you just not to use it. And
I agree. You said something amazing here. I feel like nowadays one of the most important currency is attention. There is a game I play with when I go with my friends in dinner, and I say, okay, everyone flips the phone face down. We have dinner. The first who watch the phone pays the bill.
Good.
You will be amazed on how many free meals you get.
I'm not surprised at all, man. People have like a twitch, It's people get like missing limbs syndrome if their phone's not there. When I'm with people in social settings, if I'm sitting down like this, I typically won't even bring my phone into the room with me.
Same, yeah.
Or if I'm in a restaurant, it might depend on what type of jeans I'm wearing. But I try not to. I don't even like to have it on the table. I don't want it like in my sight. When I'm with people, I do my best to give people just my full one-on-one attention, unless the phone needs to come out to show them something or take a photo or whatever it is. But I think people just need to be more. It would be good for people to be more conscious of it. Yeah. Because the truth is, almost everybody is at least slightly addicted to their smartphone. Right? If you doubt this, go to any public area, even the gym, and just if you yourself aren't on your phone, just look around and tell me what percentage of people are on their phone. In any given public environment, it's usually over 50%. And it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't even matter what country, what city you're, unless you're maybe in like the sticks in some rural area where there's no signal, or people are doing something very, very active in the time. Then almost everyone's on their phone, for hours and hours every day. Isn't
it because it's like such a new thing and no one is educating anyone about it on how to use it? Like when I was young, my mom said, hey, we're having dinner, TV is off because we want to have dinner and eat. So I've been educated with this mentality, which is we're having a meal, we're going to talk to each other. How was your day? My day was like this, your day was like that. No distractions. Yeah. But nowadays people are brought up in this kind of super fast environment where no parents, I don't want to say that no parents, but judging by what I see, they probably have different values and they don't pay attention to, because for me the real social media is this, we're having you and me now. If I was on my phone, I wouldn't pay attention to what we are saying to the audience, but also to you, which is, it's a massive disrespect. But like you said, I don't think there is awareness out there.
No, and there's not much modeling because the parents are addicted to their phones.
Exactly.
How many times have you seen, mother or father with their child, and the child's like, in a buggy or whatever, or even any situation, even in a restaurant, whatever, and they're, the parents themselves are on the phone. Sometimes the child as well is on the tablet. I've seen whole families and everyone. I've seen whole families in restaurants, and every single person is on a device during the meal, and that makes me kind of sad, right? It's not my business, it's not my family, whatever, but I'm like, man, that kind of sucks if you think about it. Is this where humanity is? And they're not even thinking they themselves would probably agree with me if they saw themselves. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they themselves are probably not even realizing, oh my gosh, like all five of us are on our devices right now. We're not even talking to each other in a public restaurant. Like why are we even in the restaurant and we're not, you know? But yeah, I think it's, these things are designed, they're designed to be very, very addictive. And it's a big jump even from TV because people had concerns about TV and computers and the internet and all these things because they've obviously changed the way people do things and the way people socialize. But the biggest difference with the smartphone is it's not even the phone capability. It's the fact that you've just got a portable multimedia device and computer with you at all times, right? You don't carry a TV. No one carried a TV around with them, right?
Yeah.
So if you're watching TV, you had to be at home. Even with video games, it's like, okay, you might get addicted to a game, but you have to be sitting in front of your computer or sitting in front of a TV to play it. It never stops. Like you've just got this thing with you all the time, access to all the information at your fingertips, access to communicating or messaging anybody, access to your emails. No one used to check their emails from their phone, right? People forget that. Like you didn't even used to be able to check your email on your phone, right? People couldn't even call you before. Like before people had mobile phones, like you had to be at home or at a public place for someone to even call you. So there was more of a separation between the tech and social, right? It was like, okay, you've got the social world and people are communicating, looking at each other in the eyes, talking, having their meals together, whatever it is. And then you can have a time, okay, and then we sit down and we watch TV together, in which case you're still even socializing, or you play video games. Even with video games, it's changed, right? I don't know, what consoles did you have?
I grew up with like the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, you know.
And then later?
I think I kind of seen the Atari coming through, and then I have probably the newest. That was one of these Nintendos, like one of the first ones.
And then you stopped, or?
And then I stopped. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, when I was a preteen to early teen, with those consoles, if you wanted to play them multiplayer, you were all in the same room. Mario Kart or GoldenEye. Or Perfect Dark, like all these games, right? If you're playing them with your friends are still in the room with you. They're still physically there. Whereas now, even when people are doing these multiplayer games, they're sitting in a room like this with a headset on, and they're playing with other people who are also out there in the ether, but they're not in the same room. They don't know what they look like. They don't even know their names, anything like that. So it's just like we've had this continuous disassociation between human beings. And you see so much talk these days about mental health and anxiety and depression and all these things. And there's multiple reasons, but I'm like, the reasons for these things are obvious to me, right? Like it seems like people like to use the term mental health, but they don't really like to offer a proper diagnosis. And there are many behaviors and things that people are doing and even things people are believing, which it's like, well, of course you feel that way, like you're completely isolated.
Disconnected.
You're not part of any communities, sometimes not even the family unit has been, scrambled up so much. You're sedentary, just sitting down all day. You're eating garbage food. You're not drinking water. You're not getting enough. Like people are doing all these things. It's almost like if I could write a prescription that I think would give someone depression, that's what millions of people are basically doing every single day. And then they're like, why am I depressed? And it's like you're doing literally every single thing that would make you feel like this mentally, physically, socially, emotionally, spiritually, like you're just missing the mark on all of these things. So, that feeling is your body telling you something's wrong.
And interesting you touch on technology because I want to pick your brain on Bitcoin and the blockchain because I know you've been to Miami, you are into it as much as I am. And I wonder, how do you think decentralization is going to play a role? For example, think about YouTube and Twitter, and not Twitter as much because they're changing, but there's like a central authority and they control what you can and you can't say. Well, the blockchain is going to allow people to build technology over it where it's truly decentralized and you'll be able to say whatever you want and no one can cancel you. No one can block you. No one can ban you. You'll be able to ban whoever you don't want to have in your network. That's great. There's going to be I think a rise of those platforms allowing people to say what they want forever in the blockchain.
Yeah, I think that'll happen. How much traction they'll gain, I honestly don't know because it's a massive uphill battle. I mean, some of these platforms already exist and have done for a while, but they've got a 10 to 15 year with any social network, the value is in the network itself.
Yeah, agree.
Right? It's network effect. The only reason Twitter is valuable or Facebook is valuable or whatever is because so many people are using it, right? You've got 1 billion plus people on many of these platforms. I think Facebook is 3 billion monthly active users. I think Instagram's 2 and a bit billion. I think TikTok's now over 1 billion. Twitter is, I think, about 400 million. So catching up to that and building those network effects is hard. The truth is as well that, most people, the reality is most people don't even know what decentralized means.
Yeah.
Most people don't care about whether something is centralized or decentralized and will not go for an alternative unless the mainstream thing causes them a lot of pain or friction.
Oh, there's a huge advantage for them to do so. Right?
Yeah, that's the reality of it, right? So there's a small percentage of people, myself included, who really care about, free speech and anti-censorship, and who are even vocal enough and prominent enough that they might be shadow banned or censored or suspended. Most people honestly don't even think about that stuff. They don't worry about it. They don't care, right? They're not saying anything that's, the average person is not like, oh my gosh, I'm scared of saying the wrong thing. I'm like, it's only a small percentage of people that it even affects. So because of that, unless there's some other major USP that brings people to those platforms and makes them successful, I think they'll always stay in a niche. I do think that the more aggressive the mainstream platforms go in terms of banning people, especially unfairly, and censoring people and so on, the more they are creating room for competition. I very much see YouTube on this path right now. YouTube is demonetizing a lot of people. They're banning a lot of accounts. They're censoring people. They're not being transparent and so on. So what happens? Oh, this thing called Rumble is growing. This thing called Odyssey is growing, right? If YouTube wanted to snuff out Rumble, they would just be less aggressive with their censorship, right? And then everyone will just stay on YouTube because that's where the audience is. That's the name brand recognition. It's a search engine. You want to reach people. I mean, I get people who are like, people who are like ideological, right? They're more ideological, right? They're more on the right, conservative, libertarian, whatever it might be. And I'll literally post a link to a YouTube video or a pod, and they're like, why are you still using YouTube? You should stop using YouTube. And I'm like,
what's the second?
I'm a creator. I'm trying to get a message out to people. So you want me to not put my content
the second largest search engine,
the biggest video. You don't want me to put my video on the biggest video platform. Out of sight. People need to pick their battles. People need to pick their battles properly. And I think sometimes people take L's because they think they think foolishly about these things, but also I think it's because most people are not creators, right? Most people are not producers of the content. They're just consuming. So they don't put themselves in the frame of, okay, what about, let me imagine that I'm a creator and I've got something that I want to promote or push out there, and look, there are certain things which, lines have to be drawn on, or, I mean, with me, I put my content on everything. People are like, oh, you're on Rumble? I'm like, yeah, I'm on Rumble. All my videos that are on YouTube are also on Rumble. They're also on Odyssey. So if you personally don't want to use YouTube, that's totally fine. You can find my videos. You can find them everywhere. But I'm not gonna cut out 90-something% of my audience because and I've got that what's the right word I'm looking for? I've got that redundancy. So if YouTube does go super authoritarian or just decides that Zuby has fallen afoul of our rules and guidelines, then I'm not totally stuck. Cool. There's these other options, and the more they do that to more people, the more those options are going to grow. So, look, in the long term, these things will work themselves out. I know that people are afraid of the current climate in many ways with what's happening with big tech and censorship and shadow banning and unfair suspensions. It's a mess, but also you do have to give things time. You have to give things time, and the forces of the market and the forces of voluntary free choices will lead to the right results over the course of time. There will be some pain there. There will be some unfairness that happens. There will be people who get videos taken down or get suspensions or lose accounts that shouldn't, and so on. And people should speak up when that happens.
Yeah.
Because we've seen what happens with that, because oftentimes people even get reinstated. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of problems with sort of the mentality a lot of people have with some of these things, but there's a lot of virtues that I think have been lost or are being lost in society. And one of them that's not often talked about, I think, is patience. Yeah. Right? Like, I think people want everything yesterday. I mean, just today, I mean, I said, hey, my podcast with Elon Musk is going to be out within a week. I've got people who are angry at me because it's not out already. I'm like, it takes, there's something called editing.
Yeah.
And like repairing audio, and you don't just record something. I mean, if you live stream, then that's a live stream. But if you create something, like if I'm making an album, I don't just go to the studio and the song is out tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some musicians who do that, but there's a process, and it's like people are so impatient, give me. And funnily enough, people who have this mentality tend to be the freeloading type. Yeah. It doesn't tend to be the type who are genuinely like supporting or like, it'll be the same people who get angry if you have like an ad in your video which pays for the video. It'll be the same people who get angry if you have a subscription model or a Patreon or whatever. Yep. And I don't know, people have all sorts of different mentalities, but another thing as a creator you have to do is understand that followers, fans, and supporters are not all the same thing. And people get that twisted, and I think it causes a lot of pain for a lot of people because they think they're all the same. I do not have 1.1 million fans on Twitter. I have 1.1 million followers. Of that, some percentage are fans, some percentage are supporters, some percentage are customers, and people who actually are going to financially support what I'm doing. A percentage of them are subscribers. In any world, I've seen people actually do a lot of things wrong because they think they're all the same. Yeah. They think that fans and followers and friends and supporters, like they're all the same. No, these are different categories, and you can be more than one of them. But it helps to know how those concentric circles are. Self-awareness and just being cognizant of certain things, I think, saves you from a lot of pitfalls, because if at least none of us are perfect. We're all going to fall for certain pitfalls and cognitive biases and things like that. But if you at least are aware of some of these things, then you can regulate yourself better day by day, hour by hour. You are aware, okay, this thing, this is a tendency that can happen. So let me check myself when I find myself falling into hardcore toxic tribalism or groupthink or, confirmation bias, or just totally being unaware of my own blind spots or a sunk cost fallacy. There's so many different cognitive flaws people have. And if you're aware of them, even you're into Bitcoin and the crypto, it's like, you see it, it's the reason market cycles exist in the way they do. It's all human emotion. Yeah. Right?
Fear and greed.
Fear and greed. And that's why everyone knows you should buy low and sell high. But what do people do? They buy high and they sell low. Yeah. People say, when there's blood in the streets, that's the time to buy. And then there's blood in the streets and you're terrified to buy. And then the market is obviously overvalued and going ridiculous. And that's when you want to be buying in. So you have to, and nobody is immune to that. Nobody is immune to that. And there's so many tactics of influence and sales and advertising and PR that's all based on just understanding this human psychology. Yeah. There are things that even when you know how they work, it still works on you. Yeah, 100%. I can think of multiple examples of this. I'll give a simple example. So, people don't even know that pricing psychology is like a whole thing, right? So the way that goods are priced and the way that deals and offers and sales and stuff are done, like there's strategies and tactics about this all. So, say there's a microphone or something you want to buy, anything you want to buy, and it costs, it says $100 on the price tag. Do you know an immediate way you can make it more appealing? If you write above the $100, if you write $150 and then you cross it out, and then and you can even add, save $50 or, 30% off or 33% off, whatever it is. Even though I know that is a pricing tactic, it still makes me think, that's a deal. Oh, that's on offer. It used to be $150, now it's $100. So I'm saving $50. Your brain, even when you know how that thing works, it still works, right? Sale ending soon. It works, even though okay, it might be real scarcity, it might be artificial scarcity, but it still works because you're like, so the human brain is fascinating, man. I love psychology. I've never formally studied it.
Yeah.
But with so many things I've done, I have studied it in the field, in real world, whether that was spending over a decade selling my CDs, just, out there on the street in public.
Music is fascinating in my head because, going back to what you said earlier, I couldn't agree more. When people take a plane, they don't know how the plane works. They just want to fly somewhere, right? Yeah. So I think we are at the stage where with the blockchain where we are now, that there's people like you and me looking into it. But I look into the technology itself. For example, from music perspective, if you think about it, you can compartmentalize so many different ways and aspects of the album. For example, the cover can be an NFT. You can buy a ticket to go to a concert. The ticket is an NFT. You can have a minting situation where you might mint the ticket, which is rare, and the ticket meets you after the concert. So you can create some sort of a new way to connect with your audience and chop the middleman. When you produce an album, you don't get all the revenue.
No, I do.
There's, well, in your case, but there's musicians.
I've always been independent.
Exactly, if you're independent. But there are musicians where they've been choked,
Yes.
and there is a middleman and takes everything. Well, but the blockchain solves this. They allow you to connect with your audience and capitalize on whatever you're doing. And with the royalties on the reselling, they'll keep you alive. It's like putting ads in your videos. So there is a lot that people don't even know, and that because the technology, it's like a contract, right? So whatever you put in the contract is up to you.
Yes.
I can now take a piece of paper with you and sign it, but we can write whatever we want. Of course, if I put a cactus with no utility and I sell it for $1 million, that's not the blockchain that I'm interested in. But there is something behind underneath who's going to allow creators, musicians, people that produce videos, people that produce content to connect with their audience and engage on a different channel. As much as when internet was created, I remember when people were saying, nah, we pay ads on TV, we buy ads on newspaper. And I was like, well, it's a different form of creation. I think we are there with the blockchain. But like you said, rightfully, it's so early and people don't even know and don't even understand because it's still uber difficult, right?
Human beings, we all have different personalities, we have different proclivities, and you can't, I don't know, you can't, I don't know if you can turn a dog person into a cat person or vice versa, right? Like, I don't know if you can't really turn an extrovert into an introvert or vice versa, right? You can change the way people behave to slight degrees, but we're kind of wired how we are. And the truth is, it's always going to be a minority of people who are innovators and who quickly embrace new technologies. That's always going to be a minority. It doesn't matter what the technology is. It doesn't matter what the thing is. People are, by default, the majority of people, and when I say this word, I don't even mean it in the hard political sense. Most people are conservative. I don't even mean politically. I mean in terms of their actual behaviors. Most people are highly resistant to change.
Yeah, I was about to say
They don't
change,
like technological change. They don't want to move to a different house, let alone a different city, let alone a different country. They like doing things the way they've always done them, having things the way they've had. It's a small percentage of people who see something that's like brand new and jump on it, are like, oh wow, let me explore this thing. Oh wow, this thing's just started. Cool, like let me check this out. All of these technologies, it doesn't matter, every single social media platform, the internet as a whole, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, that world, anything that is new, it's always going to be a small percentage of people who are wired a certain way who want to check it out and explore it. If it's a successful technology and it adds value to the world, then we've all seen those adoption curves, right? You've got the innovators and early adopters, which is a small percent, and then you get the mainstream adoption, and then at the end you get the laggards who finally, after many years, give in, and the people who are just making a Facebook account now, like finally they resisted. That's how it is. But it means that if you are one of those people, or you have the potential to be more of an early adopter, it always comes with a lot of opportunities, because it's almost like being able to see the future. If you have good insight and you've honed your intuition a little, you can get so far ahead of the curve on certain things that you've already got some of the best land. You've already done the land grab before everyone else, years before everyone else is arriving. And you don't need to do it in every single field. You can't be the front runner in every single field. But something I've learned, in my relatively short life is that when these new things come along, it's worth at least exploring them and investigating and trying to understand them, right? If you've heard about Bitcoin, maybe even for years, but you've never bothered learning what it is and how it works and why people are enthusiastic about it and why its value's gone up over time and so on. Like, that's an L, you know, because 10 years down the line, when this thing's worth, you know, potentially 6 to 7 figures a coin, and you're like, oh, I should have bought it back when it was then. It's like, yeah, well, why don't you? Like, why wait for 90% of people to have bought in, or even 50% of people have bought in before you bother doing the research? But majority is going to do that. You know, I sometimes say the majority is always going to be the majority, and you know, I feel sometimes when I say these things, it sounds like I'm, you know, taking shots at the kind of average person or something, which I'm really not. Yeah. I'm just saying for people who don't want to be average in whatever regard we're talking about. We could be talking about fitness. Anything. We could be talking about finances. We could be talking about whatever it is, whatever you want to learn. Like, you don't have to be. You can put in the effort and do the work and spend the time. And you know, you can be an outlier in that regard. Most of us are going to, you know, everyone is, I believe that everyone is, we're all simultaneously average and exceptional.
Agree.
Right? If you think of all the dimensions of human personality and interest and ability, there's tons of things that, plenty of things that I'm average at. Plenty of things I'm average at. There's plenty of things I'm exceptional at. Right?
I love this.
And then you lean into the things that you're exceptional at. And I mean, you can be incredibly successful in this world by being really good at one thing. In fact, you could argue that most extreme high performers in any regard are just really good at one thing. Really, Eminem's just really good at rapping. You know, Warren Buffett is just really good at investing. You know, so we're all exceptional and average, right? But if you can find the things that you're good at, and you have the potential to be great at if you put in some work and spend some time on it, and then you take that further and you use that to help other people and make their lives better in some way, shape, or form, then
successful is inevitable.
You'll be successful. You don't need to be. I think it's good to be good at a lot of things, at least above average at a lot of things. But you don't need to
overthink it.
I don't know. I think it's a weird one. It's a funny one. And the reason I even say all of this is because I deeply believe in human potential. And I know nobody is everything that they could be. And by definition, it's impossible for any one person to become everything that they could be, right? There's always room for improvement. There's always room for potential. But I feel like at this moment, especially in this culture of mediocrity and participation trophies, it's kind of never been easier in some ways to be above average. So I'm just like, why? Again, if you're totally happy with your life and you're content or whatever, this is not for you. But if you're someone who's like frustrated with life, or you're feeling depression, or you're feeling anxious, or this or that, like, you've got aspects of your life that are not in order. You've probably got some real basic things in your life. You know, maybe you're obese, right? Maybe you're just super skinny and weak. Maybe you dress terribly and you don't like the way you look. Maybe you have no confidence in the way that you communicate with other people. Maybe you have no confidence with the opposite sex. Maybe you're broke. Maybe you've got massive debt. Whatever it is, you've probably got some like big glaring part of your life in regards to health, wealth, and happiness, which is just like missing, right? Your relationship with your family, your relationship with your friends. Do you even have friends? Your relationship with God, if you believe in God. Whatever it is, there's something that is, you know, fundamentally missing. I think it's rare for, look, I would be curious to know how many people who have quote unquote depression or are depressed or anxious, have anxiety. I would like to know what percentage of those people have the basic things of their life in order. I would wager it is under 5%, right? Normally when someone is talking about these things, it's like, well, you've got this very important part of life
not sorted out.
Not sorted out. Not together, right? So the cure is to sort that thing out, right? If you've got all these things in a row and you're still feeling a certain way, okay, maybe you genuinely have some type of like mental illness or problem, right? Maybe there's really something there. But I don't know. I just see people throwing around all these terms all the time, and I'm just kind of like, well,
do nothing to fix it.
you know, you've got people like you're broke, you're fat, you've got no friends or bad friends, you're in a crappy relationship or no relationship, you don't get on well with your parents or your siblings, you don't like the city that you live in, you know, you don't enjoy your job. Like, of course you're depressed, bro. You're eating garbage, you're drinking too much alcohol or using substances. You're barely sleeping, you're not drinking water. I'm like, well, yeah, of course you're depressed. Like, you're doing, all these things are out of order, right? So, I don't know, man. I'd love to, like I said, I talk about this stuff because I want people to do well. I want people to be happy. I want people to enjoy their lives and have good connections and be healthy and all that. I don't talk about all this to like aggrandize myself or put other people down, but to inspire and tell people like, hey, man, like, you've got the capability to do that.
And it's what a fantastic way to close it. I know you are super busy, so I'm super thankful you decided to come in. That shows a lot about you and your individual, so appreciate. Guys, I'm going to leave in the comments down below all your links. Thank you so much. This has been incredible. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the channel. Guys, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.
Peace out.